what could you tell me about Latin for Lovers? I play that all the time as my background music.
I love the tunes and I love the arrangements. I wish we could record it again with better fidelity, you know, better separation.
I see.
The violins, we used a string quartet, and I think now they can ping pong, what they call, you know, like double, which makes it gives it a little better sound.
If you do, Cal, it's going to sell a lot.
But the tunes are still valid today.
Oh, yes.
And that was Paul Horn was on that date on flute too.
I played his background when I'm talking. I say I play U.P. Terrace or Tito Puente in background because it has a nice effect while I'm talking, you know?
Sure.
What year did you record that, Latin for Lovers?
I think it was 58.
58, huh?
Right before the Monterey concert, sure.
Uh-huh.
And then getting up to the Monterey concerts, that's the first time we recorded Afro Blue of Mungo's tune. And then they came out with the first album did very well, and they came out with the tunes that were not rejected, but were like considered second best to all the stuff in the first. And then they finally reissued it, I think, on Monterey Concerts, they call it.
Yeah, Monterey Concerts,
and they took the whole evening.
Right. Cal, was that your, which was your last album for Fantasy before you went to Verve?
Oh, let me think. 61 or something like that.
Yeah, well, actually, the first is in a Latin Day, 61 for Verve.
That's the first one, 61, right.
Is there a reason why you left Fantasy?
Well, yeah, I'd had a couple of pretty good offers from Sinatra's label, Reprise.
Yes.
And Fantasy at that time, after all, well, I'd been with them since, let's see, 53 or 54. I just felt I needed a change. And there was a very friendly separation because I still had publishing affiliation with Max. And the Verve deal I thought would be better for international distribution. And that's the time that Norman Granz had, had said he had sold it to MGM. And then Creed Taylor was the A&R guy. And I worked with him for about 6 years. But
okay, from that album, you have Half and Half and Ponero's Point, which you wrote.
For Bobby, yeah.
Yeah, was that for Bobby? Is that who you had in mind? Very nice.
That's what at the time I first met him when we first came to New York too.
Half and Half is such an outstanding tune. I think it's Jerome Richardson on flute in that.
No, that's Paul Horn.
Paul Horn.
That's his tune. Yeah.
Yeah. What could you tell me about that? That came out so well.
Yeah, we did the date in L.A. and Paul, I asked each guy, like I usually do, you want to get a tune on the album, and he had this one. It was originally a jazz tune, but because of the 6/8 breaks and things in there, it lent itself to the congas. I think Armando's on that album too. Armando and Chonguito Vicente on congas, and then that was the first album for Verve.
Yeah, and it came off great. It came off great. After that, you did several shades of Jade.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
It wasn't my idea at all. As a matter of fact, Max, what happened later on is kind of funny when people come up and say, hey, I hear you're really deep into Oriental music. Now, Creed Taylor came up with this idea of doing something with a little overtone, a feeling tone of Chinese, Japanese, Oriental flavor. And I was only familiar with Lalo Schifrin. He was with Dizzy Gillespie for about 6 months. As a matter of fact, we worked at the Apollo Theater right about the time that we did the Shades of Jade. But I just walked in there like a sideman on a date and got the music and looked over the parts. I didn't know what tunes.
It's a departure from the
Sure it is.
And it's very nice.
It is really a lovely album, and especially the things that Lalo did, the orchestration. But the only wild thing about that is that I had never even thought of doing any album like this, that was a departure from straight jazz or straight Latin.
Well, in the following album called Breeze from the East, there's a lot of tunes there that really just, they stopped me cold. I said,
I was unhappy with that album, Max. I really was.
Fuji, the one, I believe you wrote that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And Stan Applebaum did the arrangement.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming tune.
Well, yeah, a couple of things on there I like. I like Late Day.
Yes, you have that on the Soul.
Yeah, we have that on a couple albums. We've done that twice, I think.
Well, what makes you give these names? Because you were there, you remember them from your service days?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Late Day was...
Luzon and places like that you've been on.
Well, Luzon was written by Mancini. He wrote a tune called Luzon.
But
Late Day, and then on this new album, with this Brazilian album with Ayrton, some of the names just lay well. You think of a title and trying to come up with something original with it, and it's tough. Now, there's another island in the Philippines there called Mindoro, and that's the name of the tune on this new album with Ayrton.
Has that been released?
No, that's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Okay, then you recorded Warm Wave at Klaus Orgeman there.
Klaus Orgeman, yeah.
Very, very nice. And
that's when the bossa nova was that gentle sound with the strings.
Yeah,
you know,
did Just Friends there, and I was listening. I said, wow.
Yeah, I like that
you
too.
You show your versatility there. You go from one extreme to the other.
It's funny, like the Brazilian music hit. I don't know about the people so much in New York, because it's probably not a dance groove necessarily. It's a very soft, like a bolero.
Do you know they play that more in the discotheques? More Brazilian music is played at the discotheques.
No, I didn't know that.
Sure, anything with that Brazilian or samba or rattle touch.
But then after getting introduced, I know what it was. Claire Fisher was on the band, and he says, "Wait till I play this record for you from Rio or São Paulo or someplace." It was with Elizetti Cardoso. The first time he says, "This is bossa nova." I said, "What? Bossa nova is a new bossa or something. It's like the music coming out of Brazil now." And that's when João Gilberto and Jobim and all those guys. And then, of course, Getz made Desafinado with the Charlie Bird, and boom, they hit. Everybody went crazy.
Yes.
Even Paul Desmond, we were talking about that. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon.
Oh, Paul Desmond.
I know. And then we were laughing.
Orpheus, which you did also.
Oh yeah. Well, that's about the same time the picture of Black Orpheus came out, and the music was so strong from that.
Yes.
But anyway, it just got to be a terrific commercial thing. All record companies saying, "Bossa Nova USA," Bossa Nova. But everybody's playing Bossa Nova.
Well, to this day now.
Even Lawrence Welk.
To this day, what do you call it? It's one thing that hasn't gone away.
No,
even though
it's
that, it's about like the mambo, the
sure.
cha-cha still with us and that. And then your big one in 1964, Soul Source. That's all over 150,000.
I'm sure it was about that figure.
How come everybody was clicking there? Everybody was.
Well, I'll tell you what happened.
What a tight Tjader group that is.
We had come into town to work. I guess the Apollo Theater, one of the jazz shows up there with Morfiga or somebody, and Creed had an idea to do an album that for Gary McFarlane to arrange, using horns with Kenny Burrell, and we did Afro Blue. That's the only tune out of that session that we did over at Rudy Van Gelder's in New Jersey. And I said, Creed, what I'd like to do is bring my quintet in A&R Studios on 48th Street, and just let us play. I've got the tunes in mind. I want to redo Wachiwaro. Armando was with the band then, Armando Peraza, and John Ray on timbales and drums, and Lonnie Hewitt on piano, and Terry Hilliard on bass. So we went up there, and Armando had a friend, I forget his name, who played güiro and some Latin percussion on the date. But we did that whole album in 2.5 hours, one take on each tune, maybe two. And Creed said at the end of the session, he listened, he says, "Let me hear that Wachiwaro again." So we did kind of a short version. We did two versions, one that stretched out long, and then one, he was thinking of a single. He says, "That sounds good, sounds like it could be a hit." But he says, "I want to change it to Soul Sauce." He says, because I know most of the jockeys around the country can't pronounce Wachiguaro. They're going to say pass on this. So I said I didn't have any feelings one way or another. I thought, well, he says, and we'll title the album Soul Sauce.
So that's how they changed from Wachiguaro to Soul Sauce, huh?
And then put the icing on the cake. Ice suggested that Willie Bobo overdub the Jawbone and some.
Is he the one playing the
That's
keyboard?
right, and he made the album.
I see.
I mean, really made it, because he yelled some Spanish things, like Savol, and playing that Jawbone. So and that came out, that really that was great. But then when you look, the point I'm trying to make is that album we did like in 2.5 hours. We were out of there by 2:30. We started at 12.
And that's
then you go in some, I know, and then you go in sometimes and spend 4 and 5 days and nothing happens with a lot of big arrangements and things,
That's one of the best albums of all time. In the
some good tunes on there. Lonnie, I think had one.
Are you kidding me? Everything
Pantano
on there.
And,
You
Tanya.
know something? I get an album and I find one or two things that are just great. The rest of the stuff is mediocre, right?
Yep.
And then I pick up that album and everything there.
We did Somewhere in the Night too. That great theme from Naked City.
Yes. Everything. Something. If that album cost $10, it'd be worth it.
Well,
because very rarely do you get an album where everything on there pleases you. I know I'm speaking for myself,
Sure.
John, and a lot of people said the same thing. That when you pick like the Primo album, everybody enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But Mama Abuela, Gringo City, and Mambo Show was so overwhelming.
But when you got guys like Charlie Palmieri and Ismail, what's his name? was with Eddie.
Oh, Quintana.
Quintana, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and those guys, well, I forget a couple of the guys' names on there.
Now, Quintana is a name here.
Yeah, I know that. But anyway, you got those guys, you don't have to worry.
Now, that's another one. Like I said, I'm playing the top 30 tunes since 70, and Mama Abuela made 22 or 23.
Jeez, that's great.
Now,
Tjader Rodriguez, that was his tune, yeah.
He would have loved to have heard
well,
that version.
Charlie plays so great on that album, especially on Gringo City. His solo on that is, to me, a classic solo on the Fender.
Yeah, very, very nice. And then the big one in '66, that Picadillo just...
Oh, yeah, that's...
Just really caught everybody by surprise there. There's so many nice things on there because Eddie talked to you about the Mozambique at the time, right?
Right, that was the big thing then. And then I think Barry Rogers. Well, he was with the
Barry Rogers was on there. Yes.
He used the 4 trombones on that album, right?
Yeah. Does he do the lead, the solo on Picadillo? Do you recall?
Geez, I gave that album away a long time. I still don't have one. I like to get one maybe before I go back.
Oh, you know something? MGM has released them. They're selling them for $2 now, and they're selling like that.
You mean the one with Eddie, the one we did?
The one you did with Eddie, it's still selling now. But they're not. Thank God they're not selling it for $5.
Yeah. Oh no, I know people.
And it's going because Picadillo, Modesty Blaze, and on a clear day you can see forever. It's so rhythmically overwhelming.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, again, working with Eddie, geez, it's so easy.
That is some history, that a meeting, because we hope that we can see a reunion of you and Eddie doing some of these things.
I'd love to.
You know, like Puente and Vicentico got together.
Sure. Yeah.
There's so many things you've done with others that it shouldn't only be with Mongo and Willie and you, but things that you did with Eddie and things that you did with others. I know that.
Well, I know that Fantasy, they said, yeah, go back to New York and do this date. No offense to the guys in San Francisco or L.A., but let's face it, this is where you can depend. You don't have to worry about that.
You're like Tito Puente. You're looking to record everything, which is good. What else haven't you recorded? You've done it all, man.
Mm-hmm.
You've done
it all.
It's
like we were talking to the guy at Fantasy, and really it becomes more difficult each time, because what do you do for an encore?
Yes.
I know Tito must sometimes feel the same. Well, you don't want to just jump on a current bandwagon and try to do Jackson 5 tunes in Latin. It doesn't mean it's going to make it. Maybe once in a while it will. But I could keep recording pretty much the same things, maybe new tunes, and stretch out a little bit in more of a... I'm not really one to get involved in avant-garde or far-out things necessarily.
Well, right now they're in the hustle. Do you do that?
No. Oh, the hustle, is that the dance? Or
That's
what?
the dance now.
I don't know.
They're gone crazy here.
I've heard about it, but I don't know what that's.
It's the youth, you know.
Yeah, I know. Sure.
They start the trends in that.
Yeah.